hear me? Hello? I guess you can see me and you can hear me now, because I'm using a little bit different software to connect you guys. Just give me some feedback in the chat so I know that you can hear me and you can see me. Just say something, because I'm using OBS this time for some reason. Hello? Okay, so now it should be fine. The sound is duplicated. Okay. The sound is wrong. Let me check, hold on. I don't know how to delete this thing. This audio mixture. How about now? Can you hear me? You should. Same, okay. Desktop audio. Okay, how about now? I think you should hear just my microphone. Let's check it. Sorry for this hassle, guys. Is it better now? 1, 2, 3. Still duplicated. Jesus. Okay, I will. Hold on. I think I know what to do. Okay, how about now? Yeah. I think now you should just hear my microphone, but it's not the... Now the echo is gone, I believe. 1, 2, 3. Hello? I'm not really an expert in this. Hello, 1, 2, 3. Now it's good. Okay. So we need this. We don't need this microphone anymore. It's going to be just my laptop. My laptop sound. Okay, sorry for the hassle. So let's start. The question number 1, you're asking what I think about the PDD methodology. Can it be used by big corporations to make developers work a lot till death, you're saying? Because in the PDD methodology, it's hard to pretend that you're working. You should be really working. Well, indeed. So for you, for those of you who don't know what is PDD, it's a puzzle-driven development where we let programmers break down their tasks on subtasks, and then we ask programmers to complete the task one by one, and we measure their productivity. We measure the result of their work by the number of tasks they complete. And we basically, by the puzzle-driven development, we solve the main problem which usually arises when we tell people that we're planning to pay programmers for the results they deliver, for the tickets they close, for the tasks they solve. The number one question in this case is, how do you measure the size of the problem? How do you measure the size of the ticket? So you can give different tasks to programmers, but these tasks, they will take different amount of time. And when we start working with the tasks, we don't know how much time they will take. So how are you going to measure that? How are we going to plan how much to pay for each task? And this question has no answer, because indeed, in programming, every task takes unpredictable amount of time. We just don't know how much it takes. Being a programmer, I can confirm that. It is actually the case that we don't know. So we solve this by letting programmers to return the task back to us, to the repository, in an incomplete state. So we give you the task, if you're the programmer. You solve as much as you can. You implement as much as you can. You write as much code as you can. And then you return back the code that you created in an incomplete state. So you made something, you made some progress in a fixed amount of time. So there is an amount of time allocated for you, let's say half an hour, 1 hour, maybe 2 hours. But usually we do it for half an hour. That the experience tells us that this is enough. Maybe 1 hour is probably the maximum. You return it back, and then we merge it, we accept your result, and in the code, you put the markers, you put the indicators, the to-do placeholders with the description. You explain what needs to be done more in order to complete the task. So you return back the incomplete result, and you provide instructions for other programmers what to do in order to complete it. And we turn these instructions into new tasks automatically. We have the software for that, and it's open source actually, which goes through the code base, it finds those markers, and then it creates new tasks for programmers, and the full cycle starts again. So programmers, again, they pick up those tasks, they spend 1 hour for each task. We pay them for 1 hour because we know the cost of 1 hour of your work. So let's say it's some amount of money which we agreed upon, and we again and again, that's how we progressively move forward the entire code base. So the code base becomes more and more mature. It evolves together with the effort that the programmers put in it. And that's interesting methodology because it actually allows the management to control how much who is producing. So we actually can see how much value each programmer produces by the number of tickets the programmer can solve, can close. The more tickets you close, the more money we pay you. If you don't close, if you sit on one task for a day, for example, and then in the end of the day you say it was a difficult task, it took me so much time, not because I'm lazy, but because it's a difficult task. In this case, we don't buy that. We don't get this excuse from you. We don't consider that as an excuse, because we told you in the beginning of the day that it's okay to return incomplete tasks to us. If you were not able to do anything, if you were not able to even produce an incomplete solution, then your value today is zero. And then if the value is zero, then we're going to pay you $0 or 0 rubles by the end of the day. So the question is, can we put this into our large companies? Can we suggest large companies to use this methodology? I don't think so. I don't think it's easy. Well, potentially it can be done, but it doesn't seem to be an easy task. It's much easier to say than to do, because large companies, they are, in most cases, they don't know how software is being created. Large companies and managers which are in the large companies, they don't exactly understand the magic of creating the software. It's something which they cannot decompose into pieces. It's something which looks like black magic to them. So it's just a group of people, just a large group of programmers who somehow, being totally unmanageable, being totally chaotic, being totally under no control, absolutely no discipline there, some magic is happening there, and the software gets created. Or maybe not. If it's not, then we try to solve it somehow. We don't know how. Maybe we put more people there. Maybe we fire somebody. Maybe we give some encouragement to somebody. We do some dancing around this group of programmers, but we don't know exactly what is happening there. No methodologies usually are present there. No planning, no estimating of the output. And more to that, the agile philosophy keeps putting the oil into this fire every year. They're just telling that it's impossible to measure productivity. It's impossible to manage programmers. We don't know how they work. Just let them work. Just let them do the creative part of their work. So management is becoming less and less experienced and less management savvy. So the management just doesn't know what to do. And if we come to the management and say, look, we are going to give you the instrument which will give you the visibility of what's going on, which will actually allow you to control, boom, red signal, to control programmers. Of course, they will just understand that you are offering them something which completely contradicts their understanding of what's going on. They understand it as magic. They understand that it's absolutely, they believe that it can be controlled. Because they have no instruments, because they're incompetent, they just believe that they cannot control. And when you tell them that the control is possible, they just they don't understand that it's possible. They don't believe that is possible. I tried it multiple times, and it always ends up with a strong belief of a top management that this magic will happen only because somebody will decide to create the software. Well, there's some talented guy will produce the outcome, produce the result. There is a talent should be involved. Not the discipline, not the planning, not the structuring of the workflow, not breaking it down into pieces, not analyzing who is more productive, who is lazy, not through all these mechanisms, but because there is a talent. There is a hero. A hero should be there who will solve the problems in just somehow. And then we celebrate it. We just give some big bonus to this hero, and boom, we're so happy. So the management is detached from the actual management, so that's my long answer to a very painful subject, because I'm doing this for I don't know how many years. Next question: what if you go back in time? What would you like to change personally for yourself? I think the question is change personally in myself or change personally for myself. So if it's for myself, then I think I would just buy Bitcoin as everybody else. That's just easy answer. Just get richer because of the chance. But it's more like a joke. But what if I change in myself? Then probably I would try to maybe be more. I would tell myself in the past, be more focused on a smaller amount of problems. But I don't think I would listen if I go back in time, because I kind of love to be disfocused sometimes, and it's not good. I told this in many lectures, which I read to students, which I sometimes even to little guys in schools. So I tell them that this is the key ingredient of success. So you need to be, in order to be successful, I believe, you need to be boring person. You need to be somebody who is personally, if you talk to successful people, like really successful, who achieved some great results in their craft and what they do in business or in science or in engineering, they're quite boring people, dull. So they just stay focused on one problem for 10 years, for 20 years, and it doesn't bother them. So they're not interested to change something, to do something different. They're just okay with what they do. And if you talk to them, then you will not find a lot of fun in personal relationship with them, because they are quite boring people. My experience tells me this. Maybe you have different experience. So being such a person will definitely make you successful if you just have no interest to something which is around you, which is life is full of. But it's a personality issue. So if you're born with how they say it, the very active mind and very I don't know what's the right English word, where you just very not unstable mind, that's a different story, but the mind which is constantly looking for something new, then becoming successful will be difficult for you, very challenging, because you will constantly think about doing something else, about jumping to the next problem. You feel that this problem is more or less solved, and then you jump to the next one, because you don't find it interesting to stay with the problem which is already solved for another 10 years. You go somewhere else, and then you have no success in the end, or very little one. And then another question: when will it be possible to buy the Code Ahead book? Guys, that's a difficult question. I don't know. That takes I will try to do something about it. But now you can buy it in the United States. You can buy it in Germany. You can buy it in Great Britain. You can buy it in Japan. You can buy it in other countries, but not in Russia, unfortunately. I'm trying to solve this problem. Next question. OpenAI has presented capability to create custom GPT. What do you think about it? Such AI agencies are our future. I didn't understand what they did, to be honest. So I know the news. I know that they let us create our own custom GPT, but I don't understand exactly why I need another GPT comparing with ChatGPT. I don't see what ChatGPT cannot do. So I don't see flaws right now. What I see that ChatGPT cannot do, in my practical experience where we try to use ChatGPT for software engineering, then it's obvious right now that ChatGPT, or maybe other large language models, but ChatGPT is the biggest one, they cannot give you precise answer to the questions which need such kind of an answer. So I'll give you an example. We're trying to use ChatGPT in order to solve us the problem of improper management of a software development project. So imagine we have a project where we see what's going on, we see all the metrics there, we see who is making the changes, who makes the commits, we see the number of contributors, all this information is available. And now we believe that there's a problem in the project. So something may be changed. For example, we should stop making commits to this particular area of the code. Or maybe the code documentation is not perfect right now, and because of that we keep making mistakes. Or maybe the continuous integration is unstable, and because of this we have problems with the production, problems with the bugs in the production. So there are many aspects on the software development process, not the code, but the process, which may affect the ultimate quality of the software. So the question is how to find it. So we tried to formulate this statement to ChatGPT, like a very detailed explanation of what's going on in the project, like a full paragraph of text explaining what's going on. And then the question is, what do you do? What do you recommend us to do? If you see that this is what's happening, we have failures here, we have statistic there, we have git commits of this level, they drop down or they increase. So there's some dynamics we observe. So what do you think we should do? It keeps answering the same over and over again, the same answer. The answer is, you can guess, it says, make a meeting and discuss with the team what to do. That's the recipe it gives to us all the time. So it doesn't really specify exactly what to do, even though it can, if you ask the question differently. If you formulate what you see in the project and then you ask, hey, ChatGPT, there are 5 options, 5 choices which we can consider. So which one do you recommend? And then it makes the decision. And then it says, yes, the problem is with the documentation. Somehow it understands how to put the reality into the context and then choose between 5 options. So it always tries to, and then if you ask, let's pick one option, and then you ask another question, like a second step. You ask, okay, we are trying now to improve the documentation. So what do you think we should do? In which particular file or in which particular package we should improve the documentation? It's not going to give you the exact answer. It's not going to say in like recommend you somehow. It will not recommend you to go into specific direction somehow. It will say make a meeting again. It again tries to give you an abstract advice. It just says think about asking people and get together, discuss, consider, blah blah blah. So it gives you the answers which it took from the books. So you ask them again. The next question we ask is this. Okay, you think that we need to improve the documentation. We have the files where the file is big, the class is big, but it doesn't have the documentation in front of it. That's one situation. Another situation, we have a method which is very complex, the complexity is high, and it doesn't have the documentation. Or we have another case where we have the method which has the documentation in line of the code, so the documentation stays next to the statements of the method, but it doesn't have the explanation of what the method does. Again, the question, which one to choose? So in which direction you would suggest to go? And again, it can make the decision. So what I see now that ChatGPT or maybe other language models, they're very abstract in their decision making. And we, by formulating these prompts, we need to kind of make them more specific, more concrete, more focused on one specific. And we need to do it in steps. So it's impossible to formulate one prompt to get the final answer. You need to make a series of prompts, like one, another. So you make many prompts every time trying to understand what it answered to you and formulate a new prompt, and so on and so forth. So from prompt to prompt you go, and that's how you get the final result. So this is what I think we need, maybe different ChatGPTs. Maybe we need some sort of a different models which are more suitable for different kinds of prompts. But again, I'm absolutely not an expert here. I'm just as a primitive user telling you the story of as a primitive consumer of this magic black box. Next question. When's going to be the next book and what kind of book it's going to be? Well, I'm thinking about two books basically. The first one is Elegant Objects Volume 3, which I'm trying to write for the last 2 years. I'm trying, and then I'm sitting, I'm starting. I wrote actually one section already, and this book is going to explain, just a teaser for you, that the book will explain object-oriented programming ideas using EO programming language, which we're developing. So it will be the same ideas which you had before, but this time we will explain using this language. Why? Because this language is, in my opinion, more suitable for object-oriented programming than Java, than C++. So that's going to be interesting perspective where you look at object-oriented programming through the eyes of an ideal language as we see. So that's going to be the next book, or it's going to be Code Ahead Volume 2. So Volume 1, the story is not finished there. I told some story about some management problems, but there are still many questions which were not explained. So these two books, I actually started both of them, but still not enough time to finish. But eventually I will. Next question. What is your thought about code freeze stages in project management? They are required to minimize bugs, or the opposite, code freeze doesn't allow quickly fix bugs. Code freeze, as far as I remember, code freeze means that we stop coding, we only fix bugs. So we just do not implement the new features. Maybe I misunderstand this idea, but this is how that's what I've heard sometimes, that people say stop coding, only focus on bugs. Maybe it's not a bad idea, to be honest, but of course it's a symptom of a not so perfect management, because in an ideal management of backlog, of the list of tickets, the list of problems you have in the project, there should be no difference between a bug and the feature, I believe. So everything which we implement must be presented as a bug, and that's, I think, the quality of that. This is an indicator of a good quality of management in the software team. If we can formulate every problem we solve, every code we write, every pull request we do as a fixing a bug. The bug may be in the code, the bug may be in the requirements, the bug may be in our understanding of requirements. It's always a bug. So if, for example, they come to you and say we need a new feature, it means that there is a bug in the requirements document, that it doesn't specify the new feature now. So first of all, we fix that bug. So we go to requirements document and fix the bug there. So we introduce the requirements which was missing there. Now we show it to the user says, yes, I like it, the bug is gone. But now we have another bug. The design of the product is not in line with the requirements. So we submit a new bug. We solve this bug by fixing the design. When we fix the design, certain features become unimplemented, or they just stop working, or they just need more attention. So we create more bugs. So every feature is a bug in the documentation, which goes down into a larger amount of bugs, in the end, to the hands of coders, which fix the actual bugs. So this is how it should be. So making a difference between the bug and the feature is kind of immature approach, I would say. It's okay for managers who just feel that there's something wrong there, that the team is doing something wrong. They keep breaking things. They keep breaking the product, so they just understand something needs to be done. I need to stop. But what to stop? They don't understand. They just say, okay, stop coding. Just stop breaking things. Please fix the things that are broken already. But that's kind of primitive management approach. Next one. In your lectures, videos about management, you're saying a lot about project management position that manages a lot of things. So what are your product owner position? Is there a place for such person? Yeah, product owner is it's a name for what we knew before as system analyst or requirements analyst or requirements engineer or scope champion, something like this. So there's a person who knows what needs to be done, and that person is a bridge between the customers, the sponsors, stakeholders, users, the people who want to see the product live, and the paper, and programmers. So this bridge must be built using papers. So you need to talk to different. You need to be able to speak different languages, two languages: the language of the coder and the language of the customer. And to bridge to build this bridge, you need some sort of requirements management, requirements engineering. It's called RE. It's the whole science, the whole area of science, of computer science, dedicated to requirements engineering. So this person, it's not about project management. It's absolutely not a management person. It's engineering person. This person has to have the skills of an engineer. So that person is able to understand what needs to be done and must be able to translate it to the language, which is engineering language, which is a language which people with the computer skills understand. And doing this, you need, of course, you need also soft skills, so-called. So you need to be able to communicate with the customers who don't understand the language of the papers. They don't understand what is it, functional requirements or non-functional requirements. They have no idea what it is. So you need to be able to talk with them, to understand them. It's an important person, definitely. Without that person, you would be... but sometimes this role is spread over the whole team, and I don't see it as a problem. So if the whole team can understand the customer, it's even better. This is what Agile is actually recommending us, and I support this. But it's not about understanding them. It's about understanding and writing down what they said. So when we remove the papers from the picture, if we say we don't need written documentation, then we got into trouble. We must specify what they need on the paper. Long paper, short paper, and what format you're going to use, UML, or you're going to use plain text. It's not so important. Well, at certain level it is important. The quality will be different if you write it in UML and if you write it in plain text. It will be different quality. But still, don't replace the papers with the people. So I said it multiple times. People are less stable resources, less stable elements of the software project, comparing with the papers, comparing with the source code. So everything should be in the source code. Everything should be on the digital artifacts, not in our minds, not in our brains. Next question. Interesting question. Do I think that the modern neural networks, AI, can help us to create linters of the next level? For example, to validate the changes which we embed into the code in the context of the entire architecture. Oh, definitely. That's definitely what's going to happen. I really think that this is the future. So we now have linters which are rule-based. So they're very important. The entire knowledge of computer science is incorporated in these linters. So that's gold for us. We are so lucky. We are great, all of us together, that we as a humanity, we created those linters. But the next step is actually, yes, to put the AI there so that the AI will look at the code we write, and looking at the entire context of the architecture, it will make decisions about the quality of code. The question is how much we're going to trust that, because rule-based linters, they are easy to discuss, to dispute. It's easy to argue with the decisions they make. It's easy to explain why these decisions are made because they're written somewhere. But the AI, at least now, maybe not will be able properly to explain the specifically why they suggest to improve this code. Like I said you just a few minutes ago, AI will give you pretty abstract answers. They will say many fancy words from Wikipedia saying that about something about cohesion and coupling and architecture multi-layering and blah blah blah. But it will be difficult for the current AI to tell you specifically that this line of code actually violates
the design principles which we have in the architecture. But maybe if we chain them, if we put the one AI, another AI, another, and the chain of prompts, the chain of these models, then maybe they will be able to actually get down to the specific recommendation, specific complaint, because the idea of linter is to complain, is to argue with the programmer. And not only to argue, but to disallow a programmer to put the code into the code base. This is what linter is for, in my opinion. If the linter is just giving you suggestions and recommendations, not so many programmers will listen to this linter. Maybe very enthusiastic programmers will care about that, but the majority of people will just, maybe once in a while, every 3 months, will just run this linter, look at the report, and just smile back and say, yeah, that's interesting information. Thank you very much. And get back to the code which they write. So, and if this linter is going to tell us abstract things, then it's going to be very difficult to, but it will happen. So we're just going there. Good question. That's a technical question, but still I'll try to answer. How in object-oriented style you can implement routing, which through regular expressions, depending on the URL, call the proper method of the controller by the URL. Well, you can look at how we implement it in the takes framework. Try to Google it, takes, 5 letters, takes.org. In this framework, we implement exactly that. So there you will see that for each regular expression, we have a special object which encapsulates something which you call a controller. So we don't have controllers there, but we have some objects which are responsible for generating results, the answers to the HTTP request. The request is coming, and then we have multiple objects, many of them. Each of them is responsible for answering for specific URL, for specific regular expression, or specific URL. And then we have another object which wraps them all together, encapsulates them all together, and then makes the decision using the URL. Check that takes framework. It does exactly what you're asking for. Next question. We missed the meetups in Moscow. Yeah, we also missed them. The main question with meetups, the main problem with meetups is that we don't have the content right now. So if you want to speak at a meetup, if you have some subject which is related to object-oriented programming in the right way, how we understand it, then please text me. We will consider that. We'll help you to prepare the talk, prepare the speech, and we will even help you to travel to Moscow. We'll buy you the tickets, we'll buy you the hotel, we'll pay for everything, and we will let you speak, and your video will be recorded. So we're just open for that. Think about this and text me. We'll do it. Another question, any books that changed your life except technical books? Well, I have some books on my blog. So if you go to the blog and then type fiction books, just fiction books, then you will see the list of books which I like as fiction books, non-technical. Next question, what do you think about Rust language? Which advantages, disadvantages it has? Well, I tried it a little bit. I wrote a few pieces of code in Rust for the last 2 years. I think I like it. I think I liked it in the beginning, but then I started to see there are more features than I would love to see, let's put it this way. So the language is being developed and they're actively adding new features. They're actively improving, as they say, the syntax, improving the semantic of the language, make it more powerful. But I, in general, believe in languages which have a restricted semantic, reduced syntax, the syntax which is simple, which is primitive, which does not allow programmers to implement the same thing in different ways. But in Rust you can do many things, especially with macros, for example. They have a huge system for macros, and they even now create macros second version, second generation of macros, and it's just the compiler inside the compiler, the system with macros. So you can build some in the code. It's not like meta programming in C++ where you just use sort of replacements there in the code which are being substituted by the programmer, but it's done at a very primitive level. In Rust, you can really write code which compiler will understand and even run while the compilation is happening. It's maybe similar to in Java. It's the annotation mechanism. What is it? I don't remember the name. Where you write the annotation, like Lombok is using this, or some other libraries, where you write the code which the compiler will execute before the code being compiled. I think it's insane letting programmers do that, because programmers will definitely abuse this, even though I use it too, but that definitely makes programming less transparent, less readable. The code is less readable. So Rust is sort of moving in this direction. So because when I started Rust, I didn't know the full language. I just knew the core features, and they looked very nice for me because it was like C++, but with the syntax of Ruby, because I love Ruby. So Ruby is a very simple syntax which allows you to do many things in just one line, and Rust gives you something similar. But then I started to see the features which makes it more complicated than it should. So I'm for primitive languages, like EO, for example. We're trying to make this language as primitive as possible, and that potentially will give the power to the language. We'll see how it happens. Next question. What do you do if, as a project manager, you will see that a full-time lead project developer works less than 8 hours in your project in a remote environment? He's a company staff member with the official salary. Well, if you are in the company where people are getting money for months, for a year, and especially in the countries where you cannot easily fire them or punish them financially, and you are just a manager, you are not a leader, you're not the head of the company, you're not the CEO of the company, then my recommendation to you is to just ignore this and don't waste your energy, don't waste your time trying to manage these people. It's not just gonna, you will ruin your career, first of all, because you will look like a negative person. It will look like you're trying to, nobody will care about the performance, nobody will care about productivity, because the management of the company already made the decision about productivity. They already decided, we don't care about productivity. We believe that this is a magic which happens with these programmers. They're just, by definition, are good people, and we just give them the money and hope that they will deliver the result. And now you're coming, let's say I'm the top manager and I made this decision. Now you're coming to me and saying people are not productive. Some people don't work as they should. I suggest to fire them, or I suggest to punish them and don't give them the bonus. You are basically disputing my decision. So you are going against me, not them, against me, because I made my decision. I know that they're good programmers. You're trying to dispute my management style. You kind of tell me that I'm incompetent as a manager. Of course, I will think that you are the bad apple. You should be fired. So you're only going to ruin your career. So the best approach in this case, just ignore them. Imagine they don't exist. Just let them do what they do. Let them be managed by the people on top of you who built this organization, who decided to make this organization this way. It's definitely not you. I hope I answered your question. Next question is, you're also saying that there is a customer on the other side who gives money, but what if there is no such person and there is a big company with a lot of investors who don't really into tech project? Yeah, if there is no customer, and then it's anyway you have customers. In any case, you have people who give you the money. So there are people who need something to be done. But if it's not the customer, it's an investor who who sold apples and oranges before, were selling apples and oranges, and then decided to make a big IT startup, then I think in most cases, not only in this case, but in most cases, when you work in a company which is not your company, which is not funded by you, which is not started by you, which is not going to be yours when it's going to be successful, then I think it's the most reasonable approach in this case is to think what you can get from this company for yourself. Not what you should give to the company, but what can you get from them. And what can you get? You can get free time or free money to do something good for computer science. You can even, the best case, you can even take some of the problems which this company needs to have them solved and try to solve them your way. So instead of listening to what the management is saying, you just solve them the way you believe they should be solved. And by maybe making open source contribution, maybe by building some new software products, making some experiments or stuff like that. So that way you may even help them. Not even may, but you definitely will help them. Not only yourself, but you will make a contribution to the company even bigger than if you would be just doing what they tell you to do. If you would just be, not caring about the value you're getting from this business. If you would be just focusing on the orders they're giving you. Just this is the plan. You should fix this. You should write another Spring controller. This is your job. You will waste your time, and you will not be the most productive for the company in this case because you have no enthusiasm. You will have no love for your work. That's going to be just waste of time, and for both, for them and for you. It would be much better if you find within their domain of problems which the company is solving, find your niche, find something which is interesting for you, and then start solving it, but your way, solving it the best way you can, with the passion you have, with the enthusiasm you may have. But still, start with the question: what can I get? Like, what's going to be what will I get when I quit this company in 2 years? What am I left with? Yeah, they will pay me for 2 years. I will be able to buy you a new car, but maybe something more than that can be your takeaway from the company. Another question. I like your lectures, learning C# at the moment. Wish me luck. I wish you luck, even though it's going to be hard. In case of C#, I don't like Microsoft technologies. I said it many times. But if you find C# a good solution, because now it's open source, right? It was Microsoft technologies before. Now it's more like open source. But still, I'm not really a big fan of Microsoft products. It appears to me, another question, it appears to me in the coming decade for demand for software engineers is going to diminish thanks to AI. What would you do? We definitely will have troubles with that. We definitely will have less work done, less routine work will be done by people. That's for sure. And it's happening already. So there will be computers which will write code, which will review code, which will refactor code, which will even fix bugs. They will even reject some code, some pull requests. They will even plan the development. They will estimate the development. They will submit bugs. They will see the problems in the code and submit new bugs. All of this is coming, and it's probably coming next year. So we're going to see all of this, which I just listed. All of that will happen next year. So routine work will be minimized. It will be less work which we do routinely. But at the same time, the amount of code which we write in the world will start to increase fast. So we're going to write way more code than we write right now. Because 10 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, everything that you see on GitHub was written more or less. Maybe not everything. There was, of course, some auto-generated code. But if you look at the frameworks, libraries, every project which has, let's say, 100 stars or more, they're all written by people. They're all written by human beings. And there is definitely a limit of these human beings in the world. We have how many? Like maybe 30 million programmers in the world. And maybe 1 million of them, maybe even less, they actually contribute to GitHub. Maybe maybe even less. I think maybe active contributors on GitHub, maybe a few 100,000 people. So these people are the creators of the software which the whole world is using right now. So, and then this army of programmers will get larger in the next few years. It will, triple, quadruple. It will be 10 times bigger because AI will join. The AI developers, they will just join this army and we will not even see that. We'll just not understand that there's computers starting to write code. There are computers starting to submit bugs to my repositories, and I will just fix those bugs. And even computers will submit bugs, and another computer will just fix the bugs. It will happen very soon. But when the amount of code starts growing, then the more people will be required to maintain this mess, to control what's going on, to supervise this army of robots. So we will need more people, definitely, because we will have more AI programmers. We will need more human programmers as well. So I don't think that our jobs will be diminished. They will just change a little bit. So instead of writing routine code, we will do something else. We will do more code reviews. We will do, I don't know exactly what, but I don't see any symptoms of or any. I have fear. I told you last time on the previous session that I am really scared about what's going to happen with the world of AI in the future. But I'm not absolutely scared about the job of programmers. We will have a lot of jobs for programmers. What would you do if you could be a programmer? Last time somebody asked me this question again, I answered it, but quickly I can recap. So if I'm not a programmer, I would do something where it is possible to produce results, something tangible. It doesn't matter exactly what, as long as I see the product which I create. This is what makes fun for me in programming, seeing that the product is being created. And if the product is being used by people, that's the best feeling I can get. The next question. What motivates you in your activity, in your fight for clean code, in the world of deadlines and the dirty code which we generate? Well, it is fun. It's not like I fight and I suffer because of that and I don't like it. It's just what I like. It's just fun to generate some ideas and some knowledge which may help other people. So it's not, I don't think it's a fight actually. It's more like a segregation, I would say, of programmers. So there are programmers who are okay with the dirty code they write, and there is a small group of programmers who care about what they write and they love clean code. They're interested to make their code better. They're interested to increase the quality of code. And this segregation, the separation between these two groups, it's fun to see this how it happens. It's fun to see how people move from the first group to the second one, and it's fun to see how people evolve, how people grow in their professional life, and participate in this. It's a lot of fun. I actually feel that I'm not a big contributor in this movement. So there are many people who I really envy them. I see how they are more effective. They create their linters. It's very divine, like maybe that's the wrong word, but that's a very honorable job to create linters, to create static analyzers, to create software which makes decision about the quality of code. And that these people are definitely I consider them as top level engineers of creating new programming languages. Again, these people are definitely the elite group of us, because they define for us how we should write code. They make us the tools, they make the instruments which are designed the right way. So they decide what is the right way. So I consider them, I don't belong to them, unfortunately, right now, but I'm trying to get there. I think these people are definitely deserve the most respect among all programmers. What do you think? Next question. What do you think about what Gosling said, that if he would be designing Java again, then he would not make classes there? Yeah, I've heard about that. That classes in Java was not well. Actually, there were programming languages before Java where they didn't have classes. For example, Self. Yeah, Self. Self is the language which was object oriented, and it doesn't have classes at all. And that was a really interesting invention in the area of programming languages. So Java gave us classes because we all loved classes from C++. Java was a replacement of C++ at that time, definitely. And everybody who were Java programmers, they were C++ programmers before. Every single programmer who I knew, and that was 20 years ago, they became Java programmers from C++. There were no nobody taught Java in universities like now. They were just C++, and we all studied C++, and with the classes and with the multiple inheritance and with all these operators and overloading and all that stuff. And then they gave us Java, and we became Java programmers. So Gosling maybe is right, but he had no choice. It wasn't like his mistake, like I was making the decision and then I made it wrong. It's not like that. He had no choice absolutely, because otherwise Java would not be used. Just, I don't know, nobody would allow him to make a language with no classes. Just, it was management decision. It was not his decision, like a designer of the language. It was just a decision from the top. They just told him, create a language which looks like C++, but works on the virtual machine. So make it more simple. Well, make it the way you can make it, but you cannot make it like C++ because there's a limitations of a virtual machine. So make it the best you can make it, and it should work on the virtual machine. And then he made classes, he made static methods, he made static variables, he made everything except the global variables. Yes, we don't have the global variables, but we have classes, and if we have classes, then we have global space. So he did what he did, but that was not. He was not, in this case, I believe, they were not there. I don't think it was just one person, but they were not really innovating and breaking they just made what was necessary for, at that time, following the trend which was already set by C++. Next question. Is it worse to stay on a job that I don't like and where I'm underpaid in order to show in my CV that I'm not a job hopper? I've been working here for 1 year and 2 months. My previous jobs were short, 4 months. Yeah, I would say yes. I would say don't change jobs too often, in my opinion. Because, well, unless you're absolutely not happy with but the money question, I think, should not be the decision making factor for you. In most cases, of course, if they offer you 2 times more money, then of course you don't hesitate, you just change your job. But usually people change jobs for a little, not such a big increase of money, maybe like 20%, 30%. They're getting their offers, and they just go there because they feel there is more money. You're not going to become a millionaire by changing jobs. You're not going to become a rich person by just getting a 20% increase in your salary. You can become a rich person by making something, some product, some technology, some invention, something which the world will appreciate. In this case, you get a dramatic change in your financial situation. You get from this level, you jump the next level in one quick jump. You were getting, let's say, 100 something, and then you get to 1,000. Not 100, 110, 120 every year. You change, you jump, you make little jumps. This is just waste of, I think, this is just waste of your time and waste of your talent, because every time you need to switch to a different context, you need to switch to a different problem, you need to start solving different, you need to start writing different software. Every time you change, you kind of jump back to where you started. And you need again to rebuild your career, again get into the context and think, okay, what can I do here in order to make this important technology for the future? But if you stay in one company, you see the context there, you already more or less understand who is who, what are the problems here, what are the threats, so you already know how to avoid them, and then focus on making something which will make you rich eventually. It's not going to happen tomorrow. It's not going to happen in 5 years. But eventually, if you keep focused on one specific problem that you know how to solve, eventually you will become one of 10 people, one of 100 people in the world who knows the best about this technology. And eventually you will become one of 10 people who knows the best in this technology. And eventually you will become the one. And then you will get, your career will have a jump. That's my understanding. Take it or leave it. Okay, we have a few more minutes, a few more questions. Do you like Clojure approach to simplifying developers' work? I don't like Clojure language, to be honest. I was once in Europe, in Amsterdam. I attended the meetup about Clojure language, and that was maybe, I think, 10 years ago, when Clojure was more experimental at that time and not so stable as it is now. And I just joined. There were like maybe 10 people there, all in Amsterdam. They were discussing this Clojure language, and they were showing the examples of the code with Clojure on the screen. I was writing Clojure at that time a little bit, so I had some experience, so I knew how it looks, and I was absolutely frustrated by the syntax of the language. So it's, in my opinion, it's very non-intuitive. So there are many symbols which have different meaning, and sometimes you don't understand what is the meaning and how to put them together. And I asked when the presenter was showing some programs in Clojure and explaining something how they work, I asked the question in the end when they're starting the discussion. I said, does everybody in this room understand what is it do we see on this whiteboard? And people just get angry at me because they didn't say, yes, of course we understand. They just get angry because they also have troubles understanding this, but they want to be in the Clojure community. So anyway, the outcome of this story is that this language is, in my opinion, it takes time to learn, and what you learn is not really the functional programming things which you need to learn and understand, but you learn the syntax. You spend a lot of time to digest the syntax, to get accustomed with the syntax. And that's something which programmers, I don't think we should have this in our heads. Instead, we should think about the semantic of the code we write, instead of thinking about the syntax and how to put the proper brackets and where these brackets belong. We need to think about semantic more. But in case of Clojure, it's a lot of the big part of my brain is occupied by the syntax instead of semantic. Next question. In my opinion, with AI getting better, we're gonna care less and less about code quality. Most of the code will be AI generated, as we will not need to read the code as much as we do now. Maybe you're right, but I don't like it. Even though I feel that you're right, but it makes me sad. If this is going to happen, then maybe there will be people, there will be startups, there will be companies who will create AI, who will clean up the code after us. And I think that they will do it better than programmers can do now. So I disagree with you, let's put it this way. I think it may happen, but very soon we will realize that it's happening, and somebody will create the robots who will clean up the mess. Okay, that's it. We're finished. Let me find the last question. Okay, this one. What skills will be in the mainstream in the near future? Well, it's obvious answer. So there's going to be AI. So it's going to be but not the AI inside. I don't think that your understanding of how AI works inside, how neural networks work, will be important in the future, because that will be. It's like cloud computing. So we don't really care now how to manage servers, and we don't really care how to manage networks. All of this is done by Amazon, and that's it. We just click the button and it gives us the server. This job of the administrating the servers, it's gone. There are just a few people enough to manage the thousands and maybe hundreds of thousands of servers. The same will happen with AI. So we will just see AI as a huge black boxes which provides their services, and we programmers will just need to properly generate prompts, properly generate queries to the AI. And how to do it, that's a huge question which just which just opens right now, and there will be tons of answers, tons of problems to solve before we can say that, okay, this problem is solved. Now we just don't know. These large language models, they just give some answers which we don't know how they generated and how to ask the question so that they give a better answer, so that they give a more specific answer, so that they give me an answer which is the same as the answer was given yesterday. Even this is a problem. So they keep giving us different answers. You ask the same question, every time it gives you a different answer, which is an unpredictable thing. And how to manage this wild, huge, smart animal, that's a question for the future, for programmers. So learn that skill. That's it. Thanks for coming today. Bye-bye.